Hello everyone in the MMO class at 3dbuzz.com. Welcome to the very first MMO Roundtable meeting. Now, before we get started, first thing I'd like to point out, that is, as we've said all the way back in the introductory video for the MMO class, that these videos are supposed to be sort of camera over shoulder style, where they're not planned out videos and we're executing more or less video instruction. You guys are just following along and watching what we're doing. Now, fortunately for those of you in the class, especially for those of you that are getting your speed getting up to speed, with your programming chops, a lot of the content that we've done has been presented in a very instructional manner, which is great for you guys. And of course, that does make things take a little bit longer for us, but we really enjoy explaining why things are working the way they are and ideas behind our decisions.
It's what we do.
It's what we do, and it's a habit that's hard to break. Now, as you all know, we've had a few classes where we have talked about the game itself, taking what story you've heard so far from Zach and starting to talk a little bit about the game mechanics. And there's been something about it that has personally really bothered me, and that is with doing a class that's wide open for so many people to get in and be slinging ideas around, it became a mess, and it did both times. And we warned everybody with the second video that was going to, or second set of videos, that was going to happen again.
And it did.
And it did, but we wanted to hear what people had to say. But the problem is, while we were listening to what people had to say, it still ended up being a focus on really just one area. We really didn't get anything accomplished, so I feel like it was, for the most part, a waste of time.
Well, I mean, I could tell you what I thought it was like. It sounds a lot like Thunderstruck, but I can't say it on the video.
Gotcha. Exactly. And these are some game design meetings that we absolutely must have. And it's just getting frustrating that we have not yet talked about these things. And we've had some awesome meetings in the past where we have discussed things like, how do we want to handle quests, what kinds of quests, etc., etc. And we've made good progress in the past with discussions like that, all the way back to the MMO Tech Days. But we haven't got any of that cool stuff down in any form of media yet in here with the real MMO class.
Right. And we've had a lot of these little meetings kind of off to the side. We'll be out to lunch. And
yeah.
Then I don't think you and I are capable of sitting down to lunch together without it turning into a discussion over the MMO.
Absolutely. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold what we're just, calling the MMO Roundtable meetings. And these meetings are, they're private at the moment. Right now we've got Nelson, we've got Lee, we've got Zach and myself, and from time to time there might be a person or two less, or a person more, or a couple people more. But we are not going to do large open-ended classes with deciding this stuff. That doesn't mean we're not going to do classes that are going to talk about game mechanics and game design for the MMO as a whole. But if we start getting down the things we want to see and hashing it out ourselves, and we get happy with what we're looking for, then I am definitely up for discussion in the classroom environment with everybody who wants to join in and discuss these different aspects of the game. Perhaps you may have better ideas, or just
or something we hadn't thought of.
Something that we haven't thought of to tweak out an idea. Who knows?
Well, this has been a learning experience for us, too. We understand that, of course, we're not going to think of every awesome idea out there. And so it's going to be a lot easier for us to have something highly focused on this end, present you with that, and then take in your feedback based on that, as opposed to just saying, all right, guys, here we go. And then just, sit amidst the crossfire, ducking at the occasional object that gets thrown across the room.
Exactly. So I just wanted you to know that these videos are being recorded, so our meetings are being recorded as a camera over the shoulder. And the reason I wanted to get that out and remind everyone that is the way the videos were told to be presented to begin with is because right now the door to the office here is wide open. I have muted the telephone.
No, you haven't.
Well, right now it's in use, so you can't see the mute button.
Oh, okay.
But
I was just saying.
Lee still has family members that are running around the house there. We're again, camera over the shoulder, and we're just getting this content captured in video format.
Not to mention pets.
And pets and dogs, which will sometimes go crazy. All of that, just understand, we're not sitting here trying to record an educational video for people. We're recording a video for ourselves where we are now going to start talking about this game and making the progress that I want to see.
Well, what are some of the things that you wanted to talk about tonight? Why don't you throw out some examples of some of the stuff we wanted to discuss. Now, I want to throw this out before you even start listing these off. I don't want us to, even right now in this video, pick the order in which these are going to be discussed. You'll know the order based on whatever comes up next. But what were you looking at discussing?
The cool thing is I could give you all of these. You could give me anything you may have come up with. And then we could
That's what I was going to do.
Then we could discuss the order we want to talk about it in this video here. And then,
or just surprise them. They hit the next video and then...
We could.
Anyway, go ahead.
So, and these are in no specific order, but these are things that are all of interest to me. First of all, if you want to put kind of a title to the whole way I am envisioning the discussions that we're having, because while this will get into some game mechanics and some gameplay design issues, the whole idea in my mind, as a lot of those out there that have been following along and have heard me talk about the MMO world and us wanting to go a little above and beyond what we've seen with other MMO games, is I want a world that feels like it is alive. So I've titled here on my paper, Life in the Virtual World. And that's exactly in my mind how I'm seeing it. I'm not really looking at this as a game at the moment. I'm looking at this as a living, breathing world that is taking place inside of servers somewhere else. Right. But I want it to feel that way.
Well, so what subtopics of this are on the docket for tonight?
Well, if we get to all of them tonight.
Sure, yeah. Just what are we looking at?
Yeah, time is something that I'm interested in. Economy.
That's a big one.
Real estate. Quests.
Or missions. Or tasks.
Let's just call them quests.
Yeah.
NPCs. And I've written combat down as well, even if it is just a...
that could be its whole series.
Yeah. So, well, all of these could break up into tons of sub-series. But these are...
Well, I got some other stuff, too.
These are just things that all play part in what would be required for a living, breathing world.
Well, there's just kind of a note. I mean, we've already said that these are not in any particular order.
Right.
So the order in which we cover these is totally irrelevant. But I also want to mention that there's probably going to be some serious cross-pollination
between most of these. Absolutely.
Where it's like, I mean, okay, time may end up controlling what NPCs are available, or inadvertently what quests are available. Time could end up controlling, the economy and when certain things can be purchased.
I want to talk about employment in the virtual world, which is going
right, and that affects economy. That comes back to NPCs. Quests tie into NPCs. Combat ties into real estate. I mean, there's so many different things, but we've got to break this down into something that you can chew on.
That's right.
So we're going to try to keep these as focused as we can. Now, something else, and this is heavily tied into economy. And this is one of the areas where as I was discussing earlier. We'll have a hard time discussing outside of a discussion of economy. But I actually have some really general ideas for professions that I'd like to kind of throw out on the table.
Okay.
Nothing specific. It's not like I'm saying, here are the professions I think we should have, and here's the stuff I think we should be able to build.
Right.
Nothing that detailed yet. But just some really generic ideas that I think tie really well into our world. Something else, and this could be thrown off the table, but I'm going to just put it out there anyway. I want there to be games.
Okay.
I want games within games.
Okay.
And I'll talk more about that later, though anybody who's played Fable probably already knows where I'm going with this. The other things that I had to talk about tie directly into things we've already got listed. So these are the only two kind of unique things that I had brought to the table. Oh, no. There's one more. And I'm going to use WoW terms. That's fine. But guilds, or groups, or collections of people who decide they want to play together under a common name, whatever you want to call that. We're going to call it guilds for now.
Okay, cool. Nelson and Lee, looking at these again, these are high-level categories that all play part in life in the virtual world. Is there anything that you guys can think of, again, a high-level category that we could add to this?
Environments.
Yeah, environments is good, yeah. Okay.
And like so many others, these all just tie so much into each other. It's
You will notice,
fun.
let me throw this out just in case, because I haven't said anything to Nelson about this, but we are, at the moment, completely ignoring the idea of a character with levels and
I actually, you hadn't said that yet, but I just kind of caught on, so I wasn't going to bring it up.
yeah,
Same here.
that's
So.
that's well, I'm just, in case anyone else is wondering, why isn't that the very first thing? That's at the moment. Let's start discussing.
Well, you've got your character, and then you've got the world.
Yes, let's go ahead and discuss this world. Let's see what we can do to bring it to life.
Yeah.
And then with that, then we can come back to the character and see what'll fit in there.
Well, the easy thing about the character is we know that you're going to have one. We've got to have some sort of means for a player to get into the world anyway. And aside from how he grows and changes and develops or anything like that, it doesn't necessarily have to function specifically within these contexts. These are all things that are just going to tie into the world. Except for, maybe some of this, like guilds and whatnot, but even those are kind of rules of the world.
Yep.
Here's how the world works.
Yep.
What the character does and how they grow and develop is kind of its own thing that can be handled separately.
Exactly. So that is not what we're focusing on. We're focusing on just life in general in the virtual world.
Well, as a case in point, we could have a character system that's very much like WoW is now, where you have a player who starts off at like level 1 and you build up to level 105 because that's our level cap, so we could be better than WoW. Or you could have a character who just starts off at your end game level.
Yeah.
And it's all about gaining gear and and playing through all the content, and that wouldn't change anything we have here.
Right. So Nelson, Lee, anything else you can think of?
Another one that's kind of on par with economy would be something like government, religion, factions.
Sociology.
There you go, sociology, basically.
Isn't that more like the backstory or the environment or the story?
Yes, until you start thinking about ways it could be applied. For instance, is there some sort of NPC law enforcement? If you've got griefers doing this, that, or the other. Okay, you go into a town and you rob a store. Is it possible that the guards could come after you and arrest you?
To be honest, maybe it'd be cool to have sort of a Wild West sort of take on that, but
even the
They had
Wild
sheriffs
West
in the
had
Wild West.
sheriffs and lynch mobs, and if you really pissed off a community, they would go after you.
Sure. And we can't count on the players caring enough to do anything about it. So if you want the world to feel relatively realistic, you need some sort of NPC driving force to come say, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing that." And and sociology is a really generic term, but that's cool. We can turn that into life mechanics. There's all kinds of ways we could discuss that. I'll list it off as sociology now, just understanding full well that could be broken down into several different subcategories.
Oh, yeah. Nelson?
I think this has to do somewhat with environment, but does travel? Do you think that deserves its own
I love it. I love
top level hierarchy?
Absolutely.
And again, this kind of falls under environment, but I remember you guys talking about multiple planets, and I don't think we've ever sat down and talked about that.
That's what I was classifying inside of environments, as in worlds, terrestrial, space.
Yeah,
space
if you
stations.
define how environments kind of work generically, and you define how travel works, then
Those
other
two
planets
are
will just fall into it.
Yeah, those two will cover
Yeah.
everything we would need for sure.
Because in terms of game space, it doesn't really matter whether you're on planet X or planet Y. The same rules should apply either way.
Well, whatever the environment rules are for that
Exactly.
planet,
And even then, just the rules that say you should have these rules to,
Yeah.
what is gravity here? What, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, any other areas that either of you guys can think of? This is with staying away from player character advancement. This seems to cover a pretty wide
Pretty vast.
spectrum. And I'm not planning to sit here tonight and go through all of these things. Some of them could be short discussions tonight. Some of them could be longer discussions tonight. I'm not watching a clock. This means a lot to me. I want to start getting this hammered out.
Right.
The more we can make it through, the better. And then we can come back and we can revisit all of them as long as we're not going in circles with any one given thing. If we are, then it's something that needs to be revisited. We move on. But we need to get ideas down tonight that we like and can start going forward with for a true design doc for our game. So anything else, or does this look like this is a good enough start for defining life in the virtual world? Lee, Nelson?
I think this will work with what we got. I'm just voicing, my vote that this is enough to start off with.
All right. And now you want to discuss off camera or here? Which one do you guys think would be the best one to start out with?
Oh, I have a hard time picking. And I'm biased toward the ones that I came up with.
Well, you
anyway.
could start out with environments and travel just because it's what ends up tying all the worlds and places you can go together.
Yeah, but see, environments and travel, that's something that I'm particularly, I have a lot of thoughts about. However, that really does tie in especially to real estate and how large you want,
And we know there's going to be crossovers, and that's okay. That's okay.
I really want to talk about real estate first. I'm really excited about that just because most of the games that I play don't really allow you to do that. You could say in Oblivion, but it still wasn't all that cool. And I've really got some cool ideas I want to throw out. And even if it means that I burn all my energy out real soon, it's worth it because I like where we're going with that.
Okay. Well, are you forgetting Star Wars Galaxies?
I did forget Star Wars Galaxies, but
did
that's okay
on
because so did Sony and LucasArts. So, anyway, yeah, let's.
You want to start with real estate, and then from there move into environments and travel. And please, Nelson, what you said a second ago with environments and travel is something you have a whole lot that you want to say. Please don't feel like I'm going to try to keep these short. I'm just saying we may hit some areas where we end up talking for 10 minutes, and that's enough for the moment. If you have an area where you have tons of ideas and lots of things that we need to debate, then so be it.
Yeah,
that's good.
If we expel all of our ideas and nobody disagrees with anybody after 10 minutes, then why carry on?
Exactly. So all right. Next video, we'll start with real estate, since it's going to be something that will really bring this world to life as far as wanting to go back in because there's something that belongs to you.
Yes.
So that's going to wrap up this introduction, and we will catch you guys in the next video. Thanks a lot.